There have been a number of attempted comebacks by pop-punk bands whose previous album was not well received and/or after a break or hiatus or some other type of conflict, often with mixed results. In this video, I'm specifically interested in exploring 4 successful comebacks within pop-punk that have been viewed as a significant return to form for the band and/or resulted in renewed commercial success for the band. First is probably the most successful comeback album in pop-punk, American Idiot by Green Day. Their previous album, Warning, released in 2000, was stylistically more folk-punk influenced than their past albums, which disappointed some fans of their more punk-influenced sound, and it was considered to be a commercial disappointment compared to the success of their past albums. Green Day initially recorded an album titled Cigarettes and Valentines, but somewhat bizarrely, according to the band, the master tracks were apparently stolen and they decided it wasn't their best work and decided to start over rather than re-record it. And they also worked through some tensions between the band members over creative control, and they experimented with song structure and took turns writing parts and turned these into 2 9-minute long songs, Homecoming and Jesus of Suburbia. The band decided to connect the songs to make a concept album, and they wrote more songs focusing on a coming-of-age story and themes of disillusionment and alienation, while they also wanted to mature as a band and felt an increased sense of responsibility, introducing political elements for an ambitious album titled American Idiot, with a bold message and look which the band also adopted in their change of appearance. American Idiot was released in 2004 and was their first album to peak at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and was certified 6 times platinum in the US, while the singles American Idiot, Holiday, Boulevard Broken Dreams, and Wake Me Up When September Ends are some of the most successful songs to date by the band, with the latter 2 peaking at number 2 and number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 respectively. The album both successfully capitalized on the increasing unpopularity of the Bush administration and also connected with angsty suburban adolescents through its story, themes, and relatable characters. And having been seen before as being past their peak, American Idiot reignited Green Day's career and it arguably doubled their fan base, and it matched and by some measures even surpassed the massive success of Dookie from 10 years before. Its success is arguably the greatest ever comeback by a pop-punk band, as well as just one of the greatest in music in general. Another successful comeback album is One More Time by Blink-182. Blink-182 released the album 9 in 2019, but it received mixed reception from fans, some who felt it had a different sound from classic Blink and disliked the poppier production. And Mark Hoppus tragically announced in 2021 that he had been diagnosed with lymphoma. But as he underwent treatment, this did result in Tom DeLonge and Mark Hoppus reconnecting, and after Mark's health improved, Tom eventually rejoined the band in 2022. The band released the album One More Time in 2023 with effective marketing and lyrics both reflecting a shift in values and overcoming the band members' past feuds and personal tragedies, while the album is also very nostalgic and stylistically is kind of a combination of their earlier albums while also incorporating some newer sounds. While it was not quite as successful as their peak success, One More Time was still well received by most fans and is often considered to be one of their best albums, while it was a much more successful comeback than their previous comeback album, which was the first time the 3 primary members of the band got back together, which was the divisive and commercially disappointing 2011 album Neighborhoods. One More Time became the band's 3rd number 1 album in the US, while the band's reunion tour was their most financially successful tour ever, and the singles Edging and the title track One More Time both topped the Billboard Alternative Airplay chart and were the band's highest charting singles on the Billboard Hot 100 since 2004. And the positive reception to the deluxe edition of the album, One More Time Part 2, has further added to the perception of this as a successful return to form for the band. Both the commercial and critical success of One More Time makes it arguably one of the most successful comebacks in pop-punk. Save Rock and Roll by Fall Out Boy is another successful comeback album. Folie à Deux came out in 2008 and it was fairly experimental, and at the time it was not received well by fans who viewed it as too much of a departure from their older sound, although eventually it would amazingly turn into a fan favorite. The album somewhat commercially underperformed, and at least in part due to the backlash, the band wanted a break and went on hiatus. During this time, individual projects for the band members like Patrick Stump's solo album and Pete Wentz's short-lived electronic group Black Cards were ultimately not very successful, but their personal and career challenges were helpful for their personal growth, and the band secretly got back together and wrote and recorded an album where they sort of reinvented themselves and adapted their sound to newer trends in the form of their take on anthemic pop rock. Their reunion was announced in 2013 along with My Songs Know What You Did in the Dark, which together successfully generated quite a bit of hype, and the single was a commercial success, peaking at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 and reaching the top 10 of the pop airplay chart, while Save Rock and Roll came out a few months later and peaked at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and was certified platinum in the US. While many older fans were lukewarm on the new, popular direction that the band took, this comeback successfully relaunched Fall Out Boy's career, as the band had been viewed previously as being sort of past their prime, and it also gained them many new fans, making this another successful comeback in the genre, even if the band mostly left pop punk behind with this album. And last is Wake Up Sunshine by All Time Low. With their 2017 album Last Young Renegade, the band chose to experiment with a concept album approach while adopting a more pop rock sound rather than pop punk, and it was met with lukewarm reception, though some have warmed to it since. Although not a failure, like their past few albums, it did not reach the levels of popularity that All Time Low had achieved in the late 2000s with their albums So Wrong It's Right and Nothing Personal, and especially with Dear Maria Count Me In, during the commercial peak of neon pop punk. In 2020, they released Wake Up Sunshine, where the band returned to their pop punk sound while also blending in some newer, poppier sounds, and the album was well received by their fans, with some even calling it their best album. The single Monsters was particularly successful, perhaps for effectively combining aspects of pop punk with newer sounds from contemporary pop and involving collaborations with the artists blackbear and Demi Lovato, while also coming out at a time when there was renewed mainstream interest in pop punk. The song became their biggest commercial hit to date, peaking at number 55 on the Billboard Hot 100, reaching the top 20 of the pop airplay chart and topping the alternative airplay chart for 18 weeks. Their success during this time was a commercial comeback for the band in the sense that they matched or even exceeded in some ways their late 2000s level of popularity, and this effectively is one of the more successful comebacks for a pop punk band. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. And also, please leave a comment if you'd be interested in sharing your thoughts on these comebacks or on other comebacks within pop punk, whether successful or not, or comebacks in other genres. Alright, well, that's it for me. Thanks again, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.